Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CDL podcast channel. In this episode today, rosters are pretty much finalized. We're going to be finishing that out, talking about that. Hopefully, no changes come in after, because apparently there might be some stuff on the move, but we're going to talk rosters. If you guys enjoy this one, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. If you're on the audio platforms, drop a follow, drop a 5-star review. Brock, we're back today.
We're back.
I've had an interesting couple weeks here. We were busy, like what, 3, 4 weeks ago. Kind of just took like a 1 week off and was expecting, that's the only week we're going to take off in the off season.
Yep.
And then I went to turn on my PC one day and the lights in it started flickering. And I was like, it looked like a haunted house in there. And I was like, what's going on here? And then I remembered my dumbass one night. It was really late. I was just like walking out, getting some water or whatever. There's two light switches outside my room that kind of like turn on the lights outside in like the kitchen and living room area.
Yep.
And I don't know if it's like this everywhere. Maybe somebody knows, but in Wisconsin, in some like I think it's mostly apartments. I've seen some houses that have it, but you like there's like a light switch in some houses that like controls like some of the outlets.
Oh, yeah.
So there's two light switches next to each other. One controls like all the outlets in my living room, basically, which is where my PC is in the apartment. And then one controls like the lights for the kitchen and stuff.
Yep.
So I accidentally flipped for the first time ever. I haven't touched it since I moved in. I figured out what the light switch was for. That it turned on the power. I just flipped it on. Haven't touched it since. I accidentally like nudged it, turned it off. Didn't think anything of it. I'm like, oh shoot! I saw my router shut off. I'm like, shoot! Flipped it back on. Well, I think I surged or like basically sent a power surge through my PC and like fried the power supply in it
Mhm.
because that it wouldn't turn back on. All of a sudden, it worked for a little bit. Shut it off. I'm like, whatever. Didn't think anything of it. Tried to turn it back on. It flickered again, then like fired up. But then it was being really weird. And now, I mean, I had one of our friends help me out because I'm not good with PCs and like fixing stuff like that. So I had one of our friends help me out. He was able to put the new power supply in. He tested the old one, said it was bad. Now my case fans aren't spinning. So I'm thinking those might have got fried too. Thankfully, those are really cheap
Mhm.
and not that crucial. Like right now, I'm on my PC. My case fans technically aren't working, but like the cooler's still working. So like according to
Yeah.
him, we're all good. I think we're good, but I got to get new case fans. But crossing my fingers that nothing else goes wrong because I really don't have to replace like everything in my PC.
Yep.
But it was
What
uh
a
it was an interesting time.
yeah. Had that happen as well to me.
I know yours was like I think yours was like different though. It was like didn't you were like in the middle of just like playing COD or something and your PC just shut off.
Yeah, I was in the middle of just playing COD, my PC shut off, and then I was like, "Okay, that's weird." I mean, I thought the internet just went out and stuff like that. Yeah, but
Yeah.
nope. My power supply decided to take a dump as well.
Yeah, that I mean, yours seemed a little more straightforward. Mine, I had no idea what was wrong with it because it was like flickering. I was like, it's something else. And like being somebody that doesn't know much about PCs, like if you know a bunch, you might think like, oh, right away, like that's power supply. But like as somebody who doesn't know much, you're like,
Yeah.
what's going on? And then so like I had my friend look at it, and
And
I
it's weird
think
that
I'm
it,
hoping
it
we're all good.
and it's weird that it worked after for a while too.
Yeah, it like flickered a little bit, and then like it turned on, like, after flickering, and then, like, after thinking about it, I'm like, "Oh my god, I think I, like when I flipped that on and off, maybe I, like, fried something," and it sounds like I did fry, basically, the power supply. He tested the power on it, it sounds like it was pretty much fried. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm
Mhm.
hoping we're all good. New power supply wasn't that crazy expensive, it's like 100 something bucks for a new power supply.
Yep.
Um, and I think, like, the case fans are, like, literally, like, less than $20 a piece or something, so those aren't too bad. So hopefully that's all that's wrong. Hopefully nothing else goes wrong because I mean, I'm looking at the temperatures while we're recording, making sure nothing's getting too hot, and it looks like everything's fine. So
Yep.
hopefully we're good.
Yep.
Um,
But I'm in the same boat as you about knowing PC stuff like
yeah,
that. Nothing really.
yeah. I mean, like I when I'm on the PC, I can like navigate it pretty well, but like in terms of like the hardware and like, I mean, like any parts inside there, like I went in there and like my friend was like texting me, he's like, "Oh, unplug this from the motherboard, this from the motherboard," and I'm like, "Dude, I
Mhm.
this is like a whole new world to me. I don't know what the hell I'm doing."
Yep, same here.
All right, Brock. We got a lot to talk about though in terms of CDL stuff. Like it's been a slow bit of news. I was so sad. I wanted to hop on, do like emergency pods, like an emergency episode when the LA Thief stuff dropped because I was really excited to talk about it. But I literally had a PC sitting in the corner of my living room in a box because it was unusable. So I was extremely upset. I couldn't hop on and do like emergency, like a little 5 minute episode talking about these rosters because some crazy stuff went down. Before we jump into them, I mean, you can see on the screen we have the CDL Intel page where they posted it. with the rumored, some confirmed rosters. It's up on the screen. But before we do that, we're going to talk about just some random other miscellaneous news. First, the LAT and Toronto Ultra beef that was on the timeline. We're starting a little rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
The CEO of Toronto Ultra basically, he came out, he was like, LAT called him a hoodie org and says that Toronto Ultra will be the better team in 2025. For those of you that understand this sports reference, that's like gives me extreme Dan Gilbert vibes.
Yep.
Um, when LeBron left Cleveland, way back, whatever it was, like around like 2010, 2011 or whatever it was.
Yep.
Dan Gilbert, like I think he like wrote a letter or something, and he basically said like we will win a championship before Miami does, before LeBron and Miami does. Obviously, any of you that follow the NBA know LeBron, like in his second year, went to the finals his first year. Miami's second year, he won a title, and Cleveland was just basically horrendous until LeBron came back. Don't know that Toronto will be like as horrendous as Cleveland was after LeBron left, but I certainly think it would be a wild, wild, wild turn of events if Toronto Ultra were somehow better than LAT this year.
Yeah, that would just be, I don't say that. I just don't think in any world that that's gonna happen.
No,
Unfortunately.
like, and you're looking at these rosters like Toronto, that roster's not bad. Like, I definitely have some concerns about like roles, and we'll talk about the roster more. But the roster's not bad. It's just, that LAT squad, like, they might have the two best players in the world. They might have the best player in the AR role and the best player in the sub role on one team with two other very good players attached with them and a good coaching staff. Like, it's going to
Yeah.
be tough for that Toronto Ultra team to have a better 2025 than LAT.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
I
Yeah.
think you're looking at it as LAT for sure being a favorite to win at least a tournament, and Toronto would definitely be a pretty big upset if they were able to win a tournament next year.
Yep. I definitely agree. I just don't get how would you call LAT a hoodie org since they've won like basically every year and they won a world championship.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. I tweeted about it. I think anybody that saw my tweet knows my thoughts, but I don't really think hoodie org is an insult. Like, okay, we sell a lot of hoodies, we have a lot of fans. Isn't that kind of the point?
Yeah.
Isn't that like a large part about being an esports organization, a sports organization, like a professional sports organization? Isn't that like a lot of the point?
Yeah.
Is unless I'm missing something, I think a lot of the point is, to make a popular team and, sell merchandise, you know, gain a following, build a lot of fans up because, in the end, like for sports teams as well, like you want to have a huge following because that also defines your success. Like if you're having success on the field or in the game, whatever it is, whether it's sports or esports, like you also want to, have success in terms of a fan base and like build a big fan base, big following, because that also helps in terms of the success, especially in esports where the money isn't like football or basketball where like the teams are pretty much just guaranteed to make money. Like in esports, they're pretty much all losing money. So building a big following and being able to sell merchandise and have a lot of fans is very helpful. So I like calling somebody a hoodie org to me is just you admitting they're more successful than you. It's like not an insult.
Yeah. I kind of for me, I guess from what he was trying to like say the hoodie org reference is like maybe they care more about the sales of and not winning. I don't know,
Yeah,
but
Yeah, that I guess that's what he's trying to say, but like they have more sales and more wins than you. So like you're not getting
yeah,
them at all.
they're
Like
doing both. Well, you can't even can't win.
it's like when they call Optic and hoodie a hoodie org. It's like, yeah, Optic definitely has a focus on trying to, build fans and, sell merchandise and, just make money from that. But also like Optic's crushing you in terms of overall success as an organization. They're the winningest organization in COD, multiple world championships. Like, I don't know, hoodie org to me it's just not a good insult because like that you're just saying that they're running a successful business. Okay, like damn, you got me. I'm running a successful business. Nice roast.
Damn, I should not run a successful
Yeah,
business.
like I think it's such a bad insult and it makes me cringe when I see it.
Yeah, more like what you said. He's just salty that best player went there.
Yeah, probably salty that they lost scrap to him.
Yeah,
I guess next thing, Brock, CDL apparently no longer has minimum salaries. That's interesting. I wonder in terms of like signing players, is it then what? Does it default to whatever state they're located in's minimum wage? because that'd be crazy. Imagine signing a contract where you're making like I don't even remember. I mean, I guess I don't even know what the minimum wage where we are is anymore. I remember like when we were younger, it was like 7.25, I think, when we were in like high school
Yeah, it was something
in
like that.
Wisconsin. So like, I mean, I can't imagine like what. Imagine a COD player you're signing a contract for 7.25 an hour. That's insane.
Yeah.
It is kinda sucky because, like, in terms of financial stability, like, this is the time that the players are putting in it is a full-time job, like, you're scrimming 8 plus hours a day, 5 days a week, weekend matches, like, you're putting in over 40 hours of work a week, truly. Like, as
Mhm.
much as of a meme you wanna make it like, "Oh, they're playing COD," but, like, they truly are, like, if you are a CDL player, like, a starting CDL player, you don't have time to work another job because you legitimately are putting 40 plus hours a week, including, weekends when you have matches.
Yep,
Uh,
have to.
so, like if you're paying them like before the minimum was like 55K or whatever, and I mean, depending on where you live, like 55K where we live in Wisconsin, you can definitely live off that
Yep.
a year. But like, who knows? I don't know the financials. I'm assuming in like a place like LA that wouldn't work. But like at least with the minimum, it was like, you had like a salary that depending on where you live, it was at least livable, even if it wasn't crazy. And then you could, subsidize it with streaming and making videos, making content, all that kind of stuff. So uh, it is very interesting that there's no minimum. I'm kind of scared. I mean, are some of these players going to get like nothing? I don't know.
Yeah, it definitely is little, the unknown, but I think it'd just be the, like, average wage per, wherever they live.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe
It has to be, doesn't it?
you would think nobody's going to sign with them if they're just not paying livable wages. And I don't know. There has to be some kind of like I don't know. I would think union laws or there has to be some kind of laws in your state. Like if you're paying them to do a job that's 40 plus hours a week and you're paying them so little, there has to be some kind of like something to protect them. I don't know. This is where the players union could really uh, come in and be a thing, but doesn't seem like it is probably
Yeah.
ever going to be. But I mean, from the rosters we're seeing, it seems like a lot of very good players are signing. So I would love to assume that they're getting paid fair wages. I hope they are because obviously um, the players need to be paid a fair wage. Like this is a full time job for them. So
Yep.
um,
So it's just interesting.
yeah, very very weird turn. Methods is launching Zin City, a challengers team that he's going to be fully funding. Don't believe they're getting like salaries, it said, but he's going to be like funding like their flights, the team pass, all that stuff. Then he's going to be like coaching part time a few times a week for the team. So kind of cool. Definitely will be a challengers team that has eyes on it because Methods is a pretty big personality, especially being on the Scump watch party. So definitely a good thing for challengers will help get some eyes on because I'm sure like when they're playing there probably will be like watch parties. Scump's watch party will probably end up watching them because it's Zinni's team. So could be a very, very, very good thing for challengers because like obviously, it won't get as many views as the CDL, but if Scump's watch partying it, it's gonna get some views, like more views than normal for challengers for sure.
Yeah. It's just cool to see, Zinni, ex-retired pro, going back in the community and doing that.
When we have multiple, I mean, Zuma does kind of the same thing with the Stallions and usually like funds a team, and obviously Zuma a very big personality and
More
former
more the
pro as
better.
well. Yeah, so just getting more eyes on challengers. It honestly like it's it's like it's a ladder effect. Like getting more eyes on challengers, maybe gets more funding into the scene, more eyes on it, gets more people exposed, makes more people play. In turn, the more players you can get into challengers, the better chance you have to get the best talent and getting more parity in the league because there's so many good players. So
Mhm.
just all good things if challengers is growing really for the CDL. You would think.
Yep. I agree with that. I'm sure Zuma had, a part to do with Zinni, doing this challenger team as well.
Yeah. Um, I guess Brock, another thing in terms of Activision and CDL making dumb decisions, like they have with challengers a lot. Miles was let go by Activision. I mean, we obviously, I believe, know why. It seems like a lot of the talent, if not all, was potentially let go as like full time Activision employees. We're assuming and hoping that they're probably going to come back as just contracted staff, kind of like they did with like the observers last year. Remember they like cut the observer staff.
Mhm.
Um, but then they like brought them back on like part-time contracts. It's kind of in a way like it's like a smart business tactic for Activision, but also kind of a scummy one because it makes it so they don't have to pay the casters during the off season or during the off months. or the times they're not working. Whereas before, I'm sure they were salaried employees where they were paying them year round. Now they're just going to be contracted, which in a way, I guess, does make a little bit of sense, because like in this offseason, like in terms of for Activision, Miles isn't doing a lot of stuff. Maybe he does stuff behind the scenes for them, but like in terms of like for what we see, like he's obviously not really casting anything that's sponsored by Activision. So I don't know.
Hmm.
It makes sense, I guess. But the only risky thing is since they're no longer like exclusively contracted to Activision, like if Miles, Merc, Maven, Chance, all those guys, if they're no longer exclusively contracted to Activision, they're now allowed to work, other esports, and maybe they'll find a passion in another esport or be really loved, and we'll lose them, which obviously isn't ideal.
Yeah, that'd be the worst part.
Because I mean, we are very lucky. I mean, I guess I don't watch as many other esports, so I don't know, but I do feel like just from thinking about it, I feel like we're very blessed with the casters that we do have because like Miles and Chance are fantastic. Maven and Merc are fantastic. Lando and Study when they were there are fantastic, and Shift and Study this year were fantastic. Even when you get guys like Bryce and Ton, they're also amazing. Like back when we had like Momo and Chance, like we've always in COD been very lucky for quite a long time to have very, very, very good casting duos. Like there isn't significant drop offs when you go
Hmm.
from duo to duo.
Yeah, yeah, I would say I would agree. Yeah, we've both basically had good casters for a very long time.
Pretty much as long as I could. I mean, I started really watching heavily BO3 on, and I mean, that was, Courage, kind of his breakout, Mr. X, Maven, Revan, all those guys. We've been very, very, very lucky with casters in COD. Very, very good.
Yeah, I can't really name a bad one, even if I had to.
No, like you go down to like the duo that gets brought in to be like replacements, which is Bryce and Ton, and they're awesome. They're a
Yeah.
very great casting duo.
Yep. They're all good, so we are definitely blessed.
Yeah. So hopefully they're all back under contract and casting next year.
Hmm. Agreed.
All right. Last thing before we just jump into the rosters, this is roster news, but it was just like announced like right before we started recording, so I wanted to mention it. C9 has parted ways with everybody but Sib. Obviously, we kind of knew this, like with the rumors of Skies and Kismet going to Gentlemates, with Hydra being announced on Thieves. Then like it seemed like right away they were going to keep that trio and then get rid of Sib, but now it's basically flipped. They got rid of everybody else and kept Sib. Um,
Hmm.
it seems like a disaster offseason on the front, but Jack ETN, who is the CEO of Cloud9, he's been around esports for a long time. I think he was even the CEO of Cloud9 back when they were in COD and like BO3 with Aches and IW and stuff with Priesta and them. Um, Lacefield, that whole squad, Assault. He's been around forever in esports. I'm pretty sure in COD as well. He said he planned to keep the roster when he bought the spot, because obviously, I mean, they were world champs with Priesta 2 years ago. Then last year they were runner up. He said he planned to keep the roster, but basically when he got in and talked to them, none of them really wanted to stick. So changes were kind of made. He kind of just like, did right by the players and talked to them and got it all figured out. So it sounds like it's
Hmm.
not a money issue, like, he was willing to spend money, the players just wanted to be in other spots, which is
Yeah.
interesting. You would think that would be something you did a lot of research into before you bought the spot is like, "Hey, this is the roster, they're really good, they're really expensive, like, how realistic is it that I keep them?" You would think they would have done a lot of research into that, but it doesn't really seem like they did.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of shocking that they didn't really want to stick around and play you together.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like there were some internal issues in the camp and stuff, um, but still, like, it's kinda surprising. I mean, I'm not, like, crazy shocked since, rosters don't really stick together for more than a couple years at most now, and even that roster had switched last year. I mean, if they were willing to switch after a world championship win, I can't say I'm like crazy shocked
Yeah.
that they switched after getting second. But unfortunate for C9, they come to the league thinking they're gonna have this awesome, world championship team, and then second place at the world championship, and they basically lose all of them. Except they were able to keep Sib, who is a very good player, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Very, very interesting situation, and I wonder if we'll hear more maybe as the season starts and the players start to speak out about what happened more.
Yeah.
Brock, we've got a picture on the screen here of all the rosters that are rumored. I'm hoping nothing changed since we started recording. There was apparently some thoughts, some rumors that like I don't know. I saw like Intel CDL Ronnie was like tweeting about like, oh, something might have changed. So I hope nothing's changing while recording. I don't see anything unless I'm missing it that like has changed. But we've got the pictures on the screen of the rosters, at least what they're rumored. Some of them are confirmed, obviously, like Optic, Phase, LAT confirmed. I think like the Falcons team is confirmed. I don't believe to this point anybody else is, but they're heavily rumored. And the Minnesota one, as CDL Intel has in this picture, shout out to CDL Intel for the pick here from Twitter. Minnesota doesn't have anything, but we do have like a rumored trio. So we are going to end up ranking these rosters later. Just initial gut reaction thoughts. Minnesota is going to be left off until we know their fourth. But Brock, let's go just like roster by roster, and let's just let's talk about them a little bit. Um, we'll just start top left and go down. So Atlanta Phase,
All
same
right.
rosters last year. I don't really think much thoughts have to be given. That roster is going to be a top roster next year. I expect them to win at least one event. I expect them to be, top three, top four, pretty much every event that the roster is discussing. There's not much to say about it. Anytime that trio, Simpa, Beezy, Selim, anytime they're playing together with basically any fourth, they're always going to be formidable and be in the running to be the best team in the game.
Yep.
And
I
there's not much
agree.
to say there.
Agree with what you said because same old, same old.
There's not much to say there. It's there really isn't even like a, oh, well, if this happens, like maybe the team could be bad. Like even if FaZe has an off year, they'll be like top four at every event on an off year.
Yeah.
Like I mean,
They're
their off year in air quotes was like Vanguard, and that was second place every event. So like teams would dream of that year, and it was an off year for FaZe.
yeah. Unless someone fell off the cliff, team should be very, very good.
Yeah, unless something crazy happens. Then we have another, I guess, kind of repeat roster, one that's returning from the World Cup, rumored at least, and that's the Boston Breach. I think this is maybe money issues here as to why this roster is returning, but it's Cammy and Awakening as the AR duo with Purge and Snoopy on the sub. This roster, just like it did when they signed it, it doesn't really move me. I mean, I do think Cammy and Awakening still have talent there, and Snoopy has the mechanical talent. It's just he hasn't seemed to be able to piece it together.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. This roster doesn't move me. I think they could be like somewhat competitive in some matches, but to me, they're a bottom four team.
Yep. Yep. I agree. And if we're talking a couple years ago, I would love this AR
Yeah,
duo.
yeah. I mean, Cammy and Awakening are certainly like they're not bad players, and like if you get them on a good game, maybe Treyarch for Cammy, Awakening has been pretty good in the past, like slaying wise. Like there's a world where they could be like an okay team, but like
Yeah.
I'd be shocked if they weren't bottom four based on all these rosters if they end up being the actual ones.
Yeah. I would have to agree. And like you said, more money issues, most likely.
Yeah. Then Brock, we've got Carolina Royal Ravens, a roster. I don't know, maybe you disagree, but I really like this roster. Uh, It's Slasher, TJ, Mac, Gwyn. I guess a little bit of questions on who will be the flex on this team. Obviously, Slasher the main. Obviously, Gwyn running a sub. We've seen Mac run a sub a lot in the past. Tej run a sub a lot in the past. Me personally, I'd like to just keep the sub duo from last year. Tej and Gwyn, they have the chemistry. Let
Yep.
Mac run a flex, but you could also potentially put TJ in a flex. I think Mac can more naturally slot into a flex role, and I think Tej is more of a natural sub than he is a flex. So I like Mac on the flex, but if this game truly does end up being a lot of small maps, very fast paced, maybe it ends up being a three sub meta, and this team would be very good with three subs. Like whether it's Mac or Tej on the flex, both of them have been subs for quite some time and can easily pull a third one out. Like definitely would be a very good three sub team.
Mhm. Yep. I like the team, upgraded from Slasher from Clay. And, I'm a bet on the fact that Mac is, gonna be probably better than Fellow. I like this team.
Yeah, I like this team a lot. I'm a very, very, very big fan of this team. I hope it ends up being the team that sticks because everybody knows you and I are both pretty big fans of Slasher.
Yep.
I'm a big fan of Tej. I think Gwyn obviously was fantastic last year. We're also big fans of Mac. As long as Mac can come back and be, the Mac we know, he's a very talented player. Like this team has a lot of upside. I think they're also a team that I see having a pretty high floor. I think the floor for this team's pretty high.
Hmm. Yeah.
Then we've got the rumored Gentlemate squad, Brock. It's like a retooled MW2 uh, New York subliners. They've got Priesta and Skies back as the AR duo. Kismet's on a sub, and then Linz. basically Walmart Hydra is a good way, great value Hydra. I mean, obviously he's nowhere near the talent that Hydra is, but Linz is a very young, very talented sub.
Mhm.
I like the team. I think it's could be a very good team. Obviously, it is just a downgraded version because Linz is obviously not as good as Hydra.
Yep.
But I think the squad could be pretty good. Like the trio of Skies, Priest, to Kismet obviously has had success together, but they do lose the MVP
Mhm.
uh, in Hydra. So I don't know. I think it could be a solid middle of the pack team. I think they could be pretty good, um, pretty competitive. I don't see them like being a top team, but I definitely think that they're going to be somewhere in the middle of the pack. They're not a bad team.
Yeah. Question mark. A little bit of question marks on the AR. AR duo sometimes can don't have the slaying power
Yeah,
sometimes. But I do like Kismet with Linz, and I do think Linz will have a good year with
yeah,
Kismet.
I
So
agree. I think he can really open it up for Linz.
yeah, they just want to be maybe try to be Hydra in a way.
Yeah, I mean that's big shoes to fill for Lens here in terms of filling in
Yep.
for Hydra on that World Championship squad. But I do like that they have the chemistry. You know, they won multiple events together, those three players, so there is some chemistry there. It's not like this is a team that I could see being really good early in the game
Mhm.
because of the fact that like when you look at a team like Carolina, like Slasher has played with Tej before. Tej and Gwyn are coming back from last year. The Boston team only played one event together. I mean, Optic and FaZe obviously stick, but like Thieves, you got a lot of players learning how to play with each other for the first time. Um, you know, Vegas coming to the league for the first time. New players learn how to play together on Ultra and Surge. And C9, you got some new faces like none of these teams. So that team is returning three people that won events
Yep.
and then Lynn's replacing. So I think that's a team that could be good early on just because they'll have the chemistry down maybe quicker. But they're a solid team, middle of the pack.
Yep. And I do think Kismet just makes life easier for Linz.
Yeah, absolutely. Where Linz was kind of left out to dry in the back half of last year. He was very good with Vivid, which, by the way, Vivid tweeted today that looks like he's starting in challengers. That's a travesty
Mhm.
because Vivid is certainly an upgrade to some of these teams here. I think Vivid could be an upgrade. Obviously on Falcons, I think Vivid could be an upgrade on Surge. I think he could be an upgrade on. I think you could make an argument he could go on that rocker team instead of maybe huke, a recycle player, although huke is
Yep.
very good. You could make an argument if Heretics was willing to, pick up a English speaking player, could make an argument he could deserve a spot on that team. I think he certainly would deserve a spot on the Breach.
Mhm.
You could have made an argument since Carolina decided to drop Tej, they could have picked up Vivid on that squad. There are a number, 4 or 5 squads that could use Vivid. So obviously, we always slide for our Wisconsin boy. Uh, Vivid, we're always supporting him, but um, kind of BS he doesn't make it onto a team. So I'm hoping Vivid finds his way out because he's a very good player. I mean, even C9, I wouldn't hate Vivid pairing up with Nero again instead of Kremp. I don't even hate him on that team.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll see Vivid in the league at
Hopefully.
some point in the year when one of these teams struggle enough to make a change.
Yeah, I mean, unless we're missing somebody, he's like our last hope for repping Wisconsin. That's why we're always supporting Vivid. But he's a very good player. Hopefully he makes his way back into the league.
Yep.
Brock, the next team on the list going down from Gentlemates is
Jesus.
obviously what I mean, insane team, LAT. In terms of we kind of forgot to mention
Godlike.
coaches, but it seems like the coaching staff. Shane is the head coach. It sounds like according to Hydra and like on that podcast they had, it seems like Sender is coming over to join the staff as well. So an incredible coaching staff. Obviously, everybody that's played with Sender as a coach talks about like how amazing he is. And then Shane, from everything we hear from the LAT camp, is also a very good coach. So an awesome coaching duo for that team, on top of just Hydra and Scrap. I
Y-
mean, the scariest slaying duo since like Sympabeezy, or like the scariest sub and AR slaying duo since probably Scump and Formal in
Yep.
like the Jetpack era.
Oh,
In
yeah.
terms of an AR and a sub together, I can't think of a duo in terms of the slaying department. It definitely beats out like a BZ Celium or Simp Celium
Yeah. Basically the
because
top two
Scrap
players from
plays
the
it in
last
perfect
2
ways.
years.
Yeah. Like Scrap probably the best AR since he entered the league, and Hydra probably the best sub. Um over the past 2 years. Like MW2 and MW3, Hydra probably the best sub in the game, and Scrap probably the best AR, and they are now on the same team. And their two other teammates, very good. Ghosty had a very good rookie year in MW2 with Optic, and then last year was an incredible player on
Yep.
LAT. Envoy, a bit of a down year last year at times, but he is still Envoy. Like, he is a good player for this team because with guys that are just getting kills like crazy, like Scrap and Hydra, and Ghosty kind of the same way, but will play objective. Like, Envoy is a really good dirty work player. Like, Envoy
Mhm.
will do whatever it takes to win. He'll do all the dirty work. And at the same time, also, Envoy can have a pop off game and carry you to a win at times. Also, a good
Yep.
search and destroy player.
Yep. I remember like at the end of last year in the champs, Envoy was popping off.
Yeah. He was playing well at times there at Champs. And I mean, you trust him. He's a player you trust in big moments. He's a world champ. He's like one of the most winningest players in the CDL era. Like, he's an awesome player.
Yep.
I this roster, they couldn't have done much better. Like, they were able to retain Ghosty. They were able to pick up the best sub and the best AR in the league, arguably. And then they were able to bring back Envoy and kind of a little bit of veteran leadership from Envoy. Scrap and Envoy seemed like they were, a team of two. They ended up basically picking up Hydra onto that when he was made available. They were a team of three. And honestly, with the options they had, probably landed with the best possible AR they could have gotten uh, to
Mhm.
go with. Maybe you could say, like, if they were able to find a way onto New York and keep Sib, but it sounds like the relationship between Sib and Hydra maybe wasn't the absolute best, so that wasn't going to happen. So probably landed with the best possible AR they could have. Like, the team is insane.
Yep. Just I would never thought this team would come about after champs.
No, I thought Cloud9, I thought Hydra was locked for one more year. I thought Scrap was definitely going to be locked on Toronto for one more year since they were both under contract. I thought they'd
Mhm.
never be let out of their contracts. I thought, maybe the year after Black Ops 6, we would maybe see them team up or something, but I never thought, going into Black Ops 6, they were both under contract. It's crazy that this happened. And shout out to LAT for shelling out the money because this team I can't wait to watch them. They are
Mhm.
watching this team face off against Optic and face off against FaZe is just going to be absolute cinema. It's going to be incredible.
Yep. And I believe Nadeshot did take a salary cut, day cut
Saw
for
that.
them.
Yeah, I
Yep.
saw that.
Which who
Uh,
wouldn't in the right mind do that for this team?
I mean, if that, yeah, if depending on how much he took or whatever, if that's true, that's pretty crazy. He's done that for two of the craziest rosters. I mean, this is on paper one of the craziest rosters we've seen in COD history, and also I forget what it was, but I'm pretty sure like back in the day when they bought out like Crim and Formal, I'm pretty sure Nate
Right.
Shot like helped Hex pay.
I think so. I read that too.
I think he helped them pay for like a lot of that transfer, and obviously then, the Nade Shot with the Optic Dynasty squad, they ended up winning a bunch of events together, and then also obviously when Karma moved in for Nade Shot, they ended up winning uh,
Mhm.
a ton of events, obviously, as we know, in a World Championship and are the most famous roster in COD history. So shout out to Nade Shot for creating another crazy roster.
Yep.
Next team on this list, Brock, Miami Heretics. They have 5 players listed here. I believe from what we heard, Vickle is the odd man out on the starting roster. I
Uh,
thought it was Lucky Metals, Real, and Rencor. I don't know much about Rencor. I just have heard his name. I'm assuming he's going to be a sub since they moved Metals to an AR role last year.
yeah.
Kind of the same thing as last year for Heretics for me, though. Like, they're going to be a pretty mid to lower mid team, have some upset potential. They're not going to be horrible. They're not going to be great. They'll just be like fighting for like one of those last couple spots at champs throughout the year, probably.
Yeah. Here and there, they'll upset a team, but and then they'll lose to a bad team. So I'll call it just kind of mid.
Yeah, and they're not gonna be like, yeah, exactly. Mid's a good description. They're not gonna be the worst. They're not gonna be good. They're just gonna kind of be there, and they're gonna be competitive. They're not gonna be just awful, but I don't know. Not
Yeah.
not the worst.
Yeah.
Um, then Minnesota is the one blank team on here. The rumor that we see as of now, nothing else has been updated um for what we've seen as to this point in the recording. But Minnesota rumored to be signing a sub duo of Estriel and Huke with Geo on an AR. It was rumored RCDs for a bit. Maybe not RCDs. Could be like maybe Clay, maybe Gunless. People are saying. It sounds like from what I saw, it could be Clay. If it's Clay, I love it.
Mhm.
I love Clay with Geo. Geo can pick up the sling and the AR. Clay can still shoot with them. Brings leadership. Estriel, Hook. Once again, for all these players being picked up, all these players under team control, the fact that potentially they were able to get this roster, even just the team of three, Huke and Estriel for being the last team to pick up players is a pretty damn good sub duo.
Yeah.
Like whether or not like you love Huke, you think he's a super good player, he's a little bit inconsistent. He still is for the last team to pick up a roster. He's a pretty high potential sub, like a high ceiling sub. And Estriel, he was in the conversation for Rookie of the Year last year. Another very good sub. Like that's a really good sub duo. And then Geo is extremely good too on the AR. Like this team has slaying upside. If they pick up Clay, for some veteran leadership. I don't love Arcitys on this team because Arcitys and Huke experiment has been tried multiple times and it's been awful
Yep.
everywhere it's been. Um, However, I love, love, love that trio. Like that trio has Geo, Estriel, Huke has a high slaying upside. If they add a good leader in Clay, who can also shoot on the team, like we're looking at a potential top 6 roster to me for this Minnesota team if they pick up a good main AR with it.
Hmm. Yeah. Definitely.
You feel the same way, or are you not as high on the roster as I am?
Mm, I do like the roster. I feel like this team definitely be upset can upset some of the teams if some of like the top teams if they're not on point and Minnesota is on point.
I mean, yeah, depending on who the AR is, like even if it's like a gunless or like a Clay or really whoever it is, I don't like it as much if it's Arcitys, even though I love Arcitys just because him and Hook, I don't know, maybe they just had bad
Whatever
chemistry with the
reason.
other two, but um, regardless though, like in terms of the non-top teams, like I think slaying wise, this team, I think this team slaying wise matches up with the top teams better than Boston, better than Gentlemates, better than Miami, better than Vancouver,
Hmm.
maybe better than Toronto, certainly better than Vegas. Like I think this slaying wise matches up with like almost top 4, top 5 teams in terms of slaying potential.
Yeah, I have to agree.
I love the team. Depending on who the main AR is, but well done Minnesota. And you and I like to root for Minnesota being the closest team to us. So I hope it's true because I like to root for them and the team actually has potential finally. For once, Minnesota has had some abysmal rosters over the last few
Hmm.
years.
I mean, they had rosters where we thought they're gonna be pretty good, and it is somehow they just don't do it.
Yeah. Um Brock, speaking of good rosters and rosters we're excited about, this next one I'm very excited about.
Salvaged.
They salvaged a very for as much of a nightmare as the offseason was, it seemed like you were losing Sib and Hydra right away, and then it seemed like you were going to be left with Skies and Kismet, and then it sounded like you were losing the whole roster. Now you were able to retain Sib, it sounds like. You're able to pick up a very good main AR and attach, and I like that duo.
Yep.
High slaying, smart players, attach good at S&D, and you're able to pick up Nero, one of the best free agent subs on the market, and Kremp, a guy who saw some success. We've heard he's very good in the comms, and we've heard like he was actually really good in terms of a teammate on LAT last year, and he does have upside, although he can be inconsistent. I like this team a lot for what they were able to salvage. It's a very good team. Another team that I think potentially could be a top 6 team.
Hmm. Yep. If Nero hoping to have the same kind of season he did last year, and Cramp being more consistent this year, this team would definitely be very very good and up there.
I mean, and you look at it like if you almost kind of compare it to like Vegas last year, it's basically like you traded out Johnny for Kremp. I don't know. I actually think Johnny was a pretty good player, but I think Kremp can like be pretty similar to as positive of an impact as Johnny. You
Yep.
traded Geo up for Sib. I think Geo is an excellent player, but Sib I think is a step up and then attaches the same. So it's like Vegas with some slight upgrades.
Yep.
I like the team a lot, and I like that Vegas team at the end of the year last year.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, I like the team a lot. I mean, to me, interestingly enough, Brock, it's kind of sad because like as you look at this list, in terms of the true, I mean, there's a lot of players that have been around for a while, but in terms of like the true like old heads that have been around for super long, we're basically down to like Slasher, maybe if you want to consider Priesta. In terms of like super long, then it's like if Clay makes it back in the league, uh, and really after that, attach like there aren't too many. Most of them are like CDL era or like just before CDL era.
I mean, basically, Dash is like kind of an old head since
Yeah,
he.
Dashy. Yeah, you're not wrong. Dashy, in terms of like these players, he's World War II is his first year as a pro. Technically, IW at champs. So like, Dashy is damn near one of the old heads. That you just made me feel old. Actually,
Yeah, I mean,
say
myself feel
Dashy is
old.
almost one of the old heads. But this is kind of like a sad thing because Brock, the way I look at this roster, this I don't know. This is just a gut feeling I have. This may be attaches last good chance to
And
really be on a top team because this team, they're obviously, I think we know the top three, unless something crazy happens, top three are Optic, Thieves, and Phase. Like, there's no doubt about that. But there isn't like a clear, in my opinion at least, there isn't a clear fourth best team.
mhm,
There are a lot of people I think could make it there, but like this is one of the teams that could be a top four team, which means, if they are the fourth team, they find themselves there on a lot of Sundays or could find themselves there on Sundays. And if you make it to Sunday, you have a chance to pull off a crazy upset and win an event. To me, this is probably maybe attaches last like top chance to really be on a top four, top five team. And it's sad to think, but hopefully it's not. I love Attach. He's still extremely good, but seems like it might be one of his last chances until he starts to maybe get on more bottom teams because he's had a couple rough teams the last few years, although he's been very good.
yeah. His last like very good chance to win tournament.
Yeah. Uh then Brock Optic, once again, not much to say here. Defending world champs,
World
expect them to
champs.
be very good again, obviously.
Yep. Got nothing much. They got Kenny. They got the same players as last year. Not worried about this team.
Yeah, another team that if the game does kind of speed up, I love Dashy speeding up on the AR, and if it does end up being 3 subs in these smaller maps, their flex Kenny is very good with the sub.
Yep.
Brock, next team, what do you think about this team? Toronto Ultra. I think Beans is an absolute shooter. Obviously, Kleenex is very good. Joe is very good. Insight has been very good. I like the players. Like, I like the individual players. I love the Joe and Kleenex sub duo. I think that could actually be like behind
Mhm.
the big three sub duos. I think that could actually potentially be a top 4 sub duo. I think they could be the 4th best sub duo.
Yeah.
Uh,
We love Joe.
yeah, Joe is really good. Kleenex is obviously very, very good. Um, Kleenex has an argument to be like the best sub on the non-top 3 teams. He's
Yeah.
very good.
Hmm.
Insight and Beans seems kind of like a very slow. I mean, Beans can speed it up. They seem like a slower duo. I will say, if that AR duo is able to get the pace right, this is another team that could be a top 4, top 5 team.
Yeah. Mhm.
Because Beans can shoot. Kleenex and Joe could be a great duo. If the AR pacing can be good, this team could be top 4, top 5, in my opinion. I don't know if you feel the same way. I could be convinced that they won't be because I don't think it's like a lock. I'm scared of the AR pacing, though. That's why I'm not like and be like, yep, this team's certainly top 4, top 5 because I'm scared I want to see it. But maybe you think they're gonna be worth it. Maybe you think they're gonna be really good. I don't know.
I definitely think they can make a top three, top two if they're all shooting and on the same page.
I'm just scared of that AR duo.
Yeah, like you
I
said, the
think the pacing could be
pacing
really off.
might be a little bit wonky, but I mean, I guess we'll just have to see how if they correct that or find a new player for it.
I do believe though, like Beans is pretty close with Clean Exit Insight, so I think the chemistry of this team could be pretty good.
Yep. But I
Uh,
do like it for they like go two good players.
yeah, they were able to salvage a decent roster for dropping scrap off the team
Yep.
and Envoy.
Yep.
Man, next team,
And
Brock.
eh.
To be honest, of all the teams, and like I don't know what was available, I don't know what they tried, what they didn't try. To me, this seems like the biggest fumble of the offseason.
Yeah.
The Vancouver Surge. Abuza and 04 are back. They signed Hixie and Nasty. Brock, thoughts on this team?
Like a Booza, Ness is pretty good, but the subs just I don't think they have enough slaying power.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think. 04 at times, brings the slaying power, but he's a little bit inconsistent. Hixie, obviously, definitely not known for bringing the slaying power. Not a bad player, but definitely not known for his slaying. Nasty, pretty good player. I think Caboose is obviously very good. I just think they fumbled overall because with all the people that seemed to be available this offseason, like I think Joe would have been a very nice pickup for them. Like if they were maybe able to convince like I don't know, Kismet, I don't like him as much, but if they were able to convince like Nero to come to this team,
Hmm.
Huke to stay, I wouldn't have hated. Like I don't know,
They
I'm just
did.
not in terms of like all the other teams. This roster just like doesn't move me. I think this is a game where slaying is going to be very important with how like we said, there seems like there's going to be smaller maps. Seems like it's going to be really fast paced. I think slaying is going to be really valuable. And when I look at this team, they're gonna have to play extremely good COD to win because like I don't see this team outslaying many of the other teams consistently.
Yeah. This can be like Abuza, like scrap with the Toronto NW2 and last year, basically just like always putting up the numbers.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think Abuza is going to be popping off. I think this is a case where we're going to see Abuza have an incredible individual year, but not much team success. And then I think next year he's going to get his shot to be on a really good team.
Yep.
Because like you got to figure one of the top three teams is probably going to end up splitting up because obviously they can't all win champs. So one of them probably splits up at least at the end of next year. And I think Abuza finds his way, maybe not into a top three team, but I think Abuza finds his way onto a very, very, very good team
Mm-hmm.
next year. But overall, just like Surge, I think this is a bottom four team as much as I love Abuza. I think Abuza is incredible. I think O4 is a pretty good player. I think everybody in this team is pretty good. I will say overall roster construction this year, I think like when I was looking at some of the teams last year, it's like good lord, like these teams are going to be horrible. This year, I think like just looking at it, just on paper, really quick, just like what am I thinking here? What am I thinking here? I think like Boston, Miami, Vancouver, Falcons are like our bottom four teams that miss champs. And those bottom four are way better than our bottom four last year. Like I think like Boston, Miami, and Vancouver at least will be able to be mostly competitive in matches. Like they're not just going to be getting rolled over like some of our bottom teams were last year.
Yep.
I think roster construction overall, I think the league has better rosters this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'd agree so.
I mean, and then our last team, Brock, is
The best team in the CDL currently is the Vegas Falcons.
yeah, I mean, what do we even say about this team? We don't even know. I mean, they honestly, for like what we were going to see, like last year in EWC, honestly, for what we expected, they actually were like somewhat competitive against FaZe, which is more than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
Like this team is probably going to be the 12th team. Anything other than 12th for them, considering it's like their first time playing in major competition, and they were like apparently like not even that good in challengers for their scene last year. Like for this is like their first time in like professional competition. Honestly, all you really want to see out of them is just consistent improvement throughout the year and like show that like the practice against the good teams is helping them improve. But I mean the expectations are extremely low for this team. I don't really think anybody expects them to be much more than 12th. But I mean I remember like I think it was the Xnid kid like in at the World Cup, he was like kind of frying. Like he looked really good. Like they played really fast. They had like there was some mechanical skill there. It's just like they're so far behind in terms of practice and like game knowledge and stuff because they haven't been competing against the best players in the world like every day and practicing like the other people have. But I don't know. I'm curious to see what they do. I'm curious to see like they are a team that at any moment if they decide to just dip their feet into the CDL, they could instantly become like the best team because I think in terms of pockets
They got
they
pockets.
they have the deepest pockets. So like it feels like if at any moment they were just like screw this, we want a good team. Like if all the good players hit free agency, they might be able to assemble like the craziest roster you've ever seen. Like they might be able to get like I don't even know like Scrap and like Hydra and Simp and like they might be able to get like the craziest roster you've ever seen. Like they might just be able to pick okay. On an open market, who are the four best players? We'll take them all and pay them the most by far. And none of you can touch it because the pockets
Yeah.
are definitely the deepest.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Really quickly, Brock, I don't want to spend too much time on it. Just your initial reaction when you're looking at these rosters, 1 through 4, or 1 through 11, because we're not going to rank Minnesota's as we don't know their like official main AR, but just 1 through 11. When you really quick gut reaction, rank the rosters in order that you like them. Maybe not how the standings are. We're going to wait till we get closer to the year to obviously like give our standings predictions, but just gut reaction to the rosters. I ranked them as so. The top three, I just put LAT 1, Optic 2, Phase 3, because I think recency bias. I'm just obsessed with that LAT roster. Optic and Phase are interchangeable to me. It's just like you lump them as the top three and you'll figure it out later. Like I think they're just going to trade be number 1 all year.
Yep.
But then after that, number 4, I put C9. I really enjoy that roster with Attach, with Sib, with Nero, with Kremp. Number 5, I put Carolina. I don't know. I think I'm overrating them maybe, but I love that Carolina roster. I think Slasher, Matt, Gwyn, Teach is going to be an awesome roster. 6, I put Toronto. I think they could easily be ahead of Carolina, but like I said, the AR duo kind of scares me. 7, I put Gentlemates, MW2 trio plus Lens as they just become a middle of the pack team because of no Hydra. 8, I put Surge, and I think you could put him lower. I'm just not a fan of that roster. And then 9, I put Heretics. 10, I put Boston, and in last at 11th, I put Falcons. If like it's Clay or Gunless or a main hour that makes sense on Minnesota with that trio, I probably slide them in at 6 and bump Toronto, Gentlemate, Surge, Heretics, Boston, Falcons all down 1 and put that
Mhm.
Minnesota roster at like 6. So curious to hear where you have them, Brock, 1 through 11, and then like maybe where you slide Minnesota in at the end.
Yep. So my 1 through 3 is I put Optic first. And I just put them first since they
Yeah,
did win the
makes
championship.
sense.
Put Thieves second and Phase third. So basically same three, interchangeable, like you said. And I also had Cloud9 as a fourth team. I like you. I do like that team.
Yeah.
And then in the fifth place, I think you had Carolina Royal
Yep.
Ravens.
Yep.
I had Toronto.
Okay.
I like the makeup of Toronto, even though maybe some of these play styles aren't fitting with each other, but
Yeah.
hopefully they can figure it out and fix it if it is a problem.
Yeah.
And then we flopped, and I put Carolina at 6,
Okay.
Gentle Mates at 7, knowing AR do is suspect.
Yeah.
Kismet was suspect as of last year, but I don't think he'll be suspect, at a chance like he was last year. And Lindsay
Yeah.
just should do a lot better than like the back half of last year.
Okay.
And then I put Vancouver Surge at 8,
Okay. We had very similar lists.
9 Miami Heretics. They'll fight, definitely fight.
Yeah.
And this is where I would have put Minnesota at 10. And
Really?
yeah. And then Boston 11, and then Vegas 12, because I don't really know too much about them.
Yeah, I mean, we basically had the same one, except we were very. I mean, the one we differed the most on then is Minnesota. You're not high on Minnesota at all. You have them at 10.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Because that's a team that I like a lot. I think Estriel Huke is good. I love Geo as a player, and I think if they have like Clay, Gunless, even Arcitys, I think that's a top 6 team, top 7 team. I
Hmm.
think that's a team that's making champs at least. Like I like them more than Surge, Heretics, Boston, and Vegas for sure.
Yeah.
So interesting. That's definitely where we differed the most. I think it's funny that both of us were like, yeah, maybe phase 3, but the top 3 are all
Yeah.
interchangeable. We know for a fact phases, I mean, they finish first every year. I would say maybe we both think phase is our third favorite roster because we're just so bored of that trio just being so good every year. But I would probably be willing to bet that there's no chance that phase ends up being third place in the regular season standings next year.
Yeah. It is.
They're just so
Yeah.
consistent. They never get worse than like third at a tournament.
Yeah. And they never lose to the bad teams.
No, like almost never, unless they're like testing a map pool.
Yeah. Like last year, Cloud9, they lost a few times to some bad teams. Optic had some struggles, but usually never phase in the regular season.
Yeah. That's why I think it's funny we both mentioned, oh, maybe third for phase. And it's like, for a fact they're finishing at, I mean, they never finish worse than first in the regular season. So they're probably finishing first, but I don't know. They're just so consistent. That
Yeah.
trio they just, like you said, they don't lose to bad teams like ever. They're just so consistent.
Yep.
All right. That's going to do it for this one. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. If you're on the audio platforms, drop a follow, drop a 5-star review. Sorry for the delay. Obviously, like, man, we were super busy and then just some uncontrollable things. My PC just basically deciding it wanted to blow up on itself. Just wild stuff. But we're getting close, Brock. We're less than a month away from the release of the game. So hopefully I can get my PC all straight so I can play the damn game.
Hmm.
But looking forward to the game coming out, starting to see some players play some scrims, and then eventually get into matches. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you guys in the next one.